internet. My name is Ash and welcome to a thing. I don't know about other schools right now, but at the moment, my school's doing a hybrid, COVID-adapted kind of situation where half the class is learning from home and half the class is in school, and then it changes out the groups in a week. Which means most of our schoolwork is on school-issued laptops, and a lot of the time, even when we're in school, we have videos to watch that are on our own time. Therefore, we get to have earbuds in during class. Oh, my dear internet, school has gotten so much less dull. Provided I finished all my schoolwork and helped out my classmates and properly hid my screen because I'm that nerd, but still. I leaned back in my chair with 15 minutes to spare with nothing to despair, so I did what any 14-year-old child would prepare and started listening to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra's recording of Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun by Claude Debussy. You know, like a teenager.
Oh my, PewDiePie, help your soul, Ash.
You know what? I don't even blame you for having that reaction this time, Agatha. But that's not even the worst part, though it probably was the nerdiest part. Nope, the worst part was when I got a message from a friend that was sitting directly behind me on this app that all the school computers had that said, "What you doing?" And in that moment, I paused, took one earbud out, I slowly turned around and saw behind me that she was staring directly at the orchestra on my computer screen.
What, you were worried about your friend tattling on you? My, what amazing comrades you have, my dear.
Okay, Agatha, you say that, but you didn't see the look on her face. It was terrifying. But in that terrible, terrible moment, internet, I was in this frenzied rush of, oh my god, I'm gonna get caught, and this teacher likes me too, what am I gonna do? But then after I calmed down, in all of maybe 3 seconds, my thought process shifted from, oh my god, to, man, this is the lamest way to get caught slacking off during class. But upon further inspection, I don't think that would be true. For one, it's probably lamer to be caught with a fake college ID that you use exclusively to get into a university library. I have no idea whether people actually do that or not, by the way. Not the point. Moving on! A lot of people hear the phrase "a classical music" and already have this picture in their heads.
Of what? A person with an egregious amount of makeup with an obviously fake accent that they think makes them sound sophisticated in a white button-down shirt?
You know what? The egregious makeup thing could have been referring to either one of us, so I'm just gonna leave that alone for now. But you get my point. You get this image of a fake British woman with a wine glass in her hand and Eine, Kleine, Nachtmusik playing in the background saying,
"Oh, the modern music industry is so vulgar. Truly, to cleanse oneself of such uneducated swill is a must. My darling, you must cleanse yourself with the soothing sounds of the olden works of Mozart. You must, darling. Such sophistication."
Oh, so you want to talk about Mozart, do you?
Why, yes, of course. My, it is so refreshing to see the youth delving into the wondrous world of classical music. None of that popular garbage that were all written by hippies and drug addicts anyway.
That's a sentence. That is a sentence that has come out of your mouth. 9 times out of 10, these types of people know next to nothing about classical music.
Well, excuse me.
Name any composer that isn't Mozart, Bach, or Beethoven. Don't get me wrong, those are good composers, I'm just trying to prove a point.
Well, what was that fine gentleman's name again? Vivaldi, yes, that man, Vivaldi.
Okay then, what's your favorite Vivaldi?
What was it called again? The Fourth.
If you say the Four Seasons, I am going to kick you. Favorite Beethoven?
Why, of course, it is Symphony number
5, I'm guessing.
How on earth did you?
You have that look. You know, you just kind of seem like one of those. Again, I don't think any of these pieces are bad. I'm just saying that that specific combination and only those pieces makes it seem like an obnoxious and pathetic attempt at seeming sophisticated. That image really hinders the classical music community, which is a shame because very, very few people I've actually met who listen to classical music are like that, though Admittedly, they are not non-existent, but they're definitely a minority, because the knowledge that they are going off of is that the composers that are famous now had to have worldwide influence back then, just because, like, how many people from 20 years ago are popular now as opposed to people that are popular now who are popular now? I don't know whether that just made sense, but I'm gonna roll with it. To be popular during this 21st century, despite the fact of living 300 or some years ago, you had to be a genius. Like, writing 104 symphonies throughout your life, that's Haydn. Writing your first composition when you were 7, that's Chopin. Writing a big composition the morning that it debuts, that's Mozart. That kind of genius. But what these people don't seem to understand is that with great power comes great tomfoolery. Because geniuses throughout history have a little bit of a tendency to be just a wee bit odd. Like, say, maybe writing an entire opera about licking asses, becoming an alcoholic, and then dying at age 30. That kind of odd. Yeah, that's right. Ladies, NBs, and gentlemen, I'm talking about Mozart. He wrote an opera called Leck mich im Arsch, which literally translates to lick me in the ass. Sophistication! Do you see what I'm getting at here? You have to understand that these composers were, 1, human, and 2, musicians! Mozart, admittedly, is kind of a standard case when it comes to badassery and or tomfoolery and or rock star-ity, but let's talk about somebody who you probably have never heard of before. Franz Liszt. Oh god, where do I begin with this fucking guy? Okay, first of all, take a good look at this guy. You just look at this shit and tell me he does not look like a rock star. Because believe me, he was. The world's first rock star, as many would dub him. See, the thing is, in the past, performances were just that. Performances. People would go onto stage and just do their thing. People would come to watch the talent of it all. Liszt was the first one to make it into a capital E experience. In order of ascending coolness and or badassery and or tomfoolery and or chadness, memorizing music. This one probably doesn't seem like a lot, but you need some historical context here. Before Liszt, students would quite literally get scolded for even attempting to memorize music. In fact, even Chopin, yes, that Chopin, the one that you probably know from Your Lie in fucking April, would scold his students, not just because he thought it might affect their playing if they attempted to memorize, no, because he thought it was immodest. Actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but shh, I'm trying to make a YouTube video. And this guy walks onto stage with so much swagger, hair swinging in the wind as he walks to that piano and is the first person to ever perform that concerto that he wrote in the previous week that is an hour long, which he had memorized. Being all like, yeah, I'm awesome. Suck it, Chopin. But fear not, everybody. Of course, that's not all. I wouldn't even put this in the video if that was all. Nowadays, most piano recitals are angled so that you get a profile shot of the performer. But Liszt is actually the person that started that, not because it gives you a better angle of the pianist's hands while not facing their backside to the audience. Nope, he did it once again so he could show the fuck off. He'd whip his head around when he played, his long hair flying, beads of sweat shooting into the crowd. Shooting is a strong word, but okay. He was the first performer to stride out of the wings of the concert hall to take his seat at the piano. Everything we recognize about the modern piano recital, think Keith Jarrett, Glenn Gould, Tori Amos, or Elton John. I have only ever heard of the latter, but fuck it all. Liszt did it first. Jesus Christ, NPR, somebody has a crush on Daddy Liszt. I mean, I don't blame them, but still. I mean, women would throw their fucking clothes onto stage for this guy. Allegedly fighting each other for old piano strings or cigarette butts, which I can only assume they used for the purposes of, an art project? In Liszt's time, pianos were quite hit or miss. Nowadays, even if you get one on, like, the cheapest of the cheap end of the spectrum, at least you know that it's not gonna fall a fucking apart. But back then, there was a small enough chance that it probably wouldn't happen, but a small chance that was still big enough for you to worry about your piano falling apart whilst you're in the middle of a concert. that sentence was the definition of a grammar nightmare, but fuck it, it's my video! So a lot of the time, this guy would play this piano so hard that it actually fucking broke! And he'd have to improvise with the pieces based on what he got! If you are a person that plays an instrument, just try to imagine that happening whilst you are on a stage in front of hundreds or even thousands of people. Yeah. Bet that 4-chord pop song you learned the other day on piano and or guitar doesn't seem that impressive now. Like, a guy with long flowing dreadlocks who destroys a guitar on stage, that's pretty badass, but like, destroying a piano is on a totally different level. Like, what are the logistics of destroying a piano? Honestly, like, miles cooler than the dreadlock guy. But hey, speaking of dreadlocks, let's talk about Paganini. I think I've made a few offhand jokes about this guy in the past, but many of you probably don't know who he is, so let me simplify it a little bit. He was God, also Satan, also human, and that's kind of the takeaway of this entire video, but fuck it. I'm not gonna get too into it because that's the moment where it stops being funny, but without giving too many details, he had weird hand crap going on with his joints, which led him to have impossible dexterity, which made him so good at violin that people actually believed that he was a monster. Literally, they called him the devil's violinist, and given by his manuscripts, I think we know why. In my research, I discovered that the guy didn't even get a proper burial because the church legitimately believed that he had sold his soul to the devil. Yeah, if you've ever heard some of his work, which is playing in the background right now, by the way, you can very, very obviously tell he wasn't writing because he thought it sounded nice. He wasn't writing because he wanted to convey some kind of story. No. He was very obviously writing to make it as difficult as humanly possible. He wanted to challenge himself on violin. Now, any normal human being would just pick up a third instrument. He also played guitar, by the way. He wanted to challenge himself so badly that he ended up writing some of the most difficult violin repertoire to have ever been written. And that has the side effect, of course, of collecting oceans filled with the tears of violin and guitar students multiple centuries after his death. Also, and I know I said this before, but it requires reiterating, look at those dreadlocks. Like just look at them. Look at them. Tell me that does not look like a rock star to you! A little bit after the 2016 election took place, I remember very distinctly, I was watching the news with my mom, and I remember seeing this video of some idiot from the White House describing Donald Trump as a, quote, very stable genius. And at the time, my mindset was all like, ugh, what a weird thing to say, stable genius. But after having read up on Paganini and the rest, I think I get it. Apparently, it's hard to be both a genius and a stable, functioning member of society if you've taken at least one look at any comprehensible list of classical musicians. Get it? A list of musicians? Huh?
Please stop, my dear. I beg of you, please. Stop.
Yeah. I don't think that's just you begging for mercy. But in all seriousness, any comprehensive list of classical musicians is not complete without at least one repressed and closeted and therefore depressed gay man who is attracted to a member of his own family, a depressed alcoholic, and people like Paganini who literally died because of an STD. Tchaikovsky, for instance, actually had a fucking crush on his cousin, who, by the way, was also a guy, and that was the reason that Mother Russia was all like, oh, no, my dear Tchaikovsky, I am sorry. I'm never gonna do a Russian accent again, just please don't unsubscribe, okay? Also, you guys have heard of Elise, right? Well, apparently, Beethoven wrote that for one of his students that he was actually in love with and even proposed to her, and then got rejected. It actually wasn't even published until both of them died, as the manuscript was actually found in her personal belongings. Or how's this? Brahms spent pretty much the entirety of his life chasing after a woman called Clara Schumann, wife of Robert Schumann. And the thing is, if you listen very, very closely with an analytical ear, You can hear each and every one of these details within each composer's music. Tchaikovsky had a stifled love life, so a lot of his music is dramatic and romantic, but not necessarily in a close and intimate way, more in a longing and far off and repressed kind of way. And a lot of the time, when you play Mozart and you have a music teacher, a lot of the time your teacher will tell you to play it more lightly because it's supposed to be more effortless and carefree, which is directly mirroring the level of cheekiness coming from that fucking guy. Liszt is meant to impress, so when people play him nowadays, they're obviously very dramatic about the way they play piano. He had the whole stage in mind with his competitions. He wanted those women to be throwing their blouses onto stage as he did boy in a band style hair flips as he played that fucking piano. As a giant crowd tried to listen in from the outside, and an even bigger crowd was scrounging the area near his house for his old cigarette butts for personal reasons. And Paganini, of course, was just looking for something difficult so he could actually be challenged even with his weird hand crab going on. So, as you can see, the common elitist, sophisticated image of classical musicians is, we'll let them have their fantasies. I think the fundamental problem that actually created that image is because there was a small group of people that started idolizing the past as so much superior to the present, and then there was a much bigger group of people that were like, no, reject the past, we're gonna create this overblown stereotype of this concept of classical music because we're supposed to move into the future, not preserve the past. But that whole concept of classical music is conservatism because we're trying to preserve things instead of innovate and create new things. One negates the hours of work that modern day composers are putting into their compositions here today in this 21st century. History did not stop with today. And two, implies that the things that inspired these composers to write these pieces only happened in the past. But honestly, I think it's way more interesting to view composers not as geniuses, although don't get me wrong, we should give them that credit, but first and foremost, we should think of them as people. And as people, they did some really weird shit, and that makes for some really interesting art crap, which you can put your own personal spin on. I'm not gonna go any deeper than that because I've been told that the endings of my videos have gotten a little bit too kumbaya recently, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Hey, Ash from the future that cannot be fucked to do her makeup for the last 30 fucking seconds of a video here. Quick announcement. We just hit 150 subscribers, which, thank you. I was planning on doing a subscriber special for 150, which was going to be a cover song, but I am nowhere near ready on that, so I'm going to have to push it back to 200. I'm sorry, but I have to. And we'll probably do another one at 300. We'll see if we can get around to 400, because I said the same thing about 150. And then because 500 I want to be really special, and I just can't do that if I'm on a time crunch, but like, in the meantime, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, share these videos around with your friends if you want to see my channel grow, blah blah blah. You've heard this already, probably, unless you're new to the channel, in which case, welcome. Please share these videos because the YouTube algorithm hates small channels, and this is PDB Ash, signing off.